The best way to improve your performance in any competitive scenario is to play to win. At least, that's probably what you've heard. But what if I told you that playing to win can seriously cripple your long-term growth and improvement? If you want to learn how to avoid that and what you should be doing instead, then this is the video for you. What's up everyone, I am Godin Gaming, and today we're going to talk about why playing to win sucks. What is playing to win? Playing to win means you are ready and willing to do anything that will help you secure a win. You don't care about anything else. This means using only the best tools available, whether that's a certain gun, item, strategy. If it's going to help you get the win, then you're going to use it, because you're playing to win. So all that to say, you're going to use whatever you need, no matter the cost. Unfortunately though, the cost to you is probably higher than you think. And for the most part, the cost is kind of invisible to most people. So let's make it visible. How it hurts you. Playing to win, aka performing, is when success is the ultimate goal. It's recital day, exam time, it's game day. In fact, if you're playing a sport and it is game day, you're obviously going to play to win. So you're going to use everything you can to perform your best, which sounds appealing, right? So shouldn't we always do that? Well, like we've mentioned, playing to win is not the best option for your long-term progress, but let's get into why. Number 1, weakness. Let's be real. You're not going to use your B players, you're going to use your best players. You're not going to run the weaker plays, you're going to run your best plays, because after all, you are playing to win. So your best players and strategies will get more game time, and that makes sense. But the problem is that your weaker players or plays get little to no game time, which means that if you're forced to use them later on for whatever reason, they're still going to be weak because they're less experienced since they haven't had as much game time. It's the same in Destiny or any other game. Let's say you're playing to win and you're really good at pushing with your shotgun. Well, you're going to use that the majority of the time, which means you're only getting better with your shotgun and you're not improving on your weakness, which is your primary game. That's right, I'm calling you out. You might only be using the same hold W strategy because that's what you do best, not knowing that there are other better options. So anyway, that's the first downside to playing to win. You lose the opportunity to improve your weaknesses because in a high pressure situation, you obviously only want to use your best tools and strategies. Your weaknesses get neglected. Number 2, focus. When you're performing or playing to win, you have to be laser focused on your next move or play. You don't have any time or mental bandwidth to really think about anything else, because any time that's not spent on thinking about your next move is just cluttering your mind, which slows you down and hurts your performance. Even if you do try to fix mistakes while playing to win, you're not giving them a solid long-term fix anyway. Here, picture this. You're playing Trials, the round starts, you have a Nova Bomb and you want to be aggressive with it, so you go for an early push. Unfortunately, you miss and you weren't even paying attention to your positioning or your teammates, so you're in a really bad situation. This could easily interrupt your flow and ruin the entire match. If you dwell on those mistakes at all during the game, it just distracts you, which could cause another mistake, which makes you even more distracted, which causes even more mistakes, etc., etc. But because you're in performance mode, aka playing to win mode, you quickly forget about those mistakes because you need to focus on your next move because that's what will help your team get the win. The end result is that you likely won't register or correct those mistakes because you simply can't afford to focus on them while also playing to win. This means you likely won't remember all the details of those mistakes or how you should fix them. But you have to do that because, well, you're playing to win. And yes, you can make slight adjustments mid-match, but again, that is not how you truly improve a skill or correct a mistake. Not to mention, doing those slight adjustments does still have a slight mental tax and hurts your performance to a certain degree. Say you're not sliding enough and you want to adjust that mid-match. You have to constantly think, I need to slide more, I need to slide more. That means you're not giving other aspects of the game the full attention they need, like positioning or using cover. Not only does this likely hurt your performance, it also still just doesn't really fix the problem. So playing to win narrows your focus so much that you can't properly find or focus on most of your mistakes, which is a huge part of your long-term improvement. These mistakes can also be especially nasty if they're common, but let's talk about that in the next section. Number 3, bad habits. Because playing to win doesn't offer the focus necessary to find and fix mistakes, I think you and I can come to the same conclusion. Playing to win is not very good at fixing bad habits. In fact, it can often create them or reinforce them. If we remember what we said about number 1, which we definitely should, we'd know that playing to win discourages you to work on your weaknesses while also encouraging you to only use your best strategies. Over time, this obviously creates a situation where you're naturally drawn to your better strategies, even when they're not the best option. They just happen to subconsciously come to mind, so you're more likely to do them, also known as a bad habit. So again, if your best strategy while playing to win has been holding W, you're likely to still do that even when not playing to win. Since holding W isn't always the best option, that is a bad situation to be in. It's now a bad habit. On top of that, because you don't have the necessary freedom of focus, you might not even notice that these bad habits are here in the first place. And I think it goes without saying that fixing bad habits is a must for long-term improvement. So it's not looking too great for playing to win, but we do have one more. Number 4, burnout. If you're giving it your absolute best every game, non-stop, every day of the week, you're gonna burn out. And no amount of advanced GG is gonna save you. Burnout is bad for, well, many reasons, but I don't want to make this part longer than it needs to be, so all you need to know is that burnout hurts your performance both physically and mentally, while also stifling growth. There's a reason athletes take breaks. Just imagine if a team had playoff-like games twice a day, every day for a whole season. Sure, they do fine at the start, but over time they'd perform worse and worse. Your mind and body just need time to recharge and develop. It is just part of the process. And you guessed it, it's the same with Destiny. Congratulations. Here's a picture of my friend's dog. But let's say you go into comp and you're try-harding nonstop for 8 hours straight. I promise you, the second half of those games will probably be the worst than the first half, after you warm up, of course. You'll be making bad pushes, missing, not playing with your team, etc. Playing to win too much for too long can lead to this type of burnout and is likely to cause boredom, which is also a serious killer for improvement, as it can really suck out the motivation to continue. Because, well, we're obviously more likely to continue doing something if we enjoy it, not to mention enjoyment and excitement also helps with the mental process. So those are the 4 reasons why playing to win can be really bad for your long-term growth. Let's see if you remember all 4. I'll give you a few seconds here to try to recall them while I show you another picture of a cute dog. So how can you overcome all the downsides of playing to win and still maintain long-term growth? The number 1 solution? Practice. If you're familiar with my channel, then you know how much I love practice. I have an entire video dedicated to deliberate practice and why it is seriously the number 1 skill that can increase your performance. But I want to keep this video short, so I'll try to give a brief explanation. But you should watch that video if you really want to understand the shortcut to getting good. Anyway, some people think practicing is just doing the same thing over and over again, or just running drills for hours. While drills can be helpful, the reality is that good practice is more complex and takes a lot of focus. You see, practicing is problem solving. When you're practicing, you are actively looking for problems within your performance, your process, your attitude, your approach, etc. And then you can carefully and slowly implement solutions to said problems. If it affects how you interact with any activity or skill you're working on, then it needs to be practiced deliberately. This happens in 4 steps. Step 1. Identify the problem. Simple enough. While you're practicing, you're looking to identify problem areas with great detail. Don't just say, hey, I died there, that's a problem. You need to problem solve. What was the root cause? Was it because you were too far from cover? Did you chase too hard? Really dive into where, why, and what the problem is. And the more you do this, the easier it will be to identify and categorize problems later on. Step 2. Find a solution. Now that you know what the problem is, you have to come up with a solution. Say you weren't using your abilities enough. Then you might say, okay, next game, every time an ability is up, I will use it as soon as I can. Maybe after every death, I will ask myself if I could have used an ability in that situation. If you're overshooting your aim, i.e. swiping your reticle past the target, then you might remind yourself that the enemy is not as far as you think. There are many ways to solve a problem, but you simply have to come up with something that you think might help you solve the problem. Step 3. Test your solution. This step is super easy, in theory. You just go out and do the solution you thought of earlier. You have a plan, you just have to stick to it. But you have to stay laser focused though, because it's super easy to get distracted. You might notice some other problems, but you just have to note it and get back to your original solution. aka don't worry about B if you're working on A. So make sure you have ways of reminding yourself of what you're really trying to work on here. Step 4, evaluate. Now that you've gone out and had some time to test your solution, how did it go? No, really. People often skip this stage and don't even realize that the practice they just did was kind of terrible. It's super easy to feel like you're practicing, but there's a good chance you went on autopilot for probably longer than you think. So you need to evaluate your practice. Did you practice the solution well? And does that solution even work? How could you make this process better? Make sure you have an answer for these types of questions if you really want to improve your process. I can't stress this enough. You cannot skip this stage because this is the step that makes your practice sessions more productive. So that's practicing. It is the act of problem solving, and it will definitely help you improve, especially if done correctly. But it takes a large amount of time, focus, and energy to do properly because you often have to go into the nitty-gritty details of your own performance and psyche. You essentially have to slow down and zoom in on one or two things for an extended period of time. In fact, you have to ignore a lot of aspects of your performance to maintain focus on your deliberate practice. You have to sort of remove yourself from the situation to allow yourself enough mental space to notice and understand what's really going on. But how does it compare to playing to win, aka performing? Well, it's basically just the opposite. If you're playing to win, you don't work on your weaknesses, you can't focus on mistakes, you create bad habits, and you burn out. If you're practicing though, you're encouraged to work on your weaknesses, you are meant to focus on your mistakes, you create good habits, and you can avoid burnout by mixing up the challenges. Does that mean that playing to win should always be avoided? Absolutely not. Playing to win can increase your short-term performance when needed, and it is a very useful tool. But as you've come to learn, it is a dangerous tool when overused, since it doesn't allow you the breathing room required for deliberate practice. You don't get to make the crucial adjustments you might need to truly improve long-term. Practice is the opposite of playing to win. In the short term, it actually hurts your performance. If you're only focusing on improving, say, your positioning, you probably won't be able to focus on teamwork or abilities that much either. But again, that's okay because you're working on a small detail of your performance. And when you add that improved detail to your overall gameplay later, you'll see much more impactful gains in your performance. Practice is your key to unlocking your potential growth and improvement in the long run. But if you're always playing to win, those gains are off the table. Because the ultimate truth is this: when you play to win, you are trading long-term progress for short-term performance. Anyway, that's going to do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you coming by. And I do have to apologize for making the time between videos super long. If you want to help me out with that, you're more than welcome to leave some kind of motivational comment. But as always, happy practicing.